Hey everyone, and this past week I was watching or listening to a lecture by Paul Cantor on commerce and culture. He does a great job of explaining how humans have perceived art and culture throughout history. He really changed my perspective on how we should perceive and how we should look at art. Now, people usually look at art as this holy sacrament that, shouldn't be tainted with. It should just be left alone, and it should just try to be pushed, not be touched by anybody. But really, what art is, it's about pleasing an audience and creating value for others. And I really wanted to make an argument for why social media is an art form or will be an art form in the future by using some of Paul's points. So let's dive into this. First off, he made a point of mass production. And he says people usually perceive mass production as something bad. It's a way of diluting art and not preserving it. But what he argues is that it's a way of spreading it to as many people as possible. And you want to do that. That's something that if it's good, you want to show as many people as possible something that is good. And with social media, everyone can and everyone does use it. And if we look at it as an art, then it is the most mass-produced form of art that has ever been created to date. So that's an interesting thought. And that leads into competition and feedback. With this mass production, there's a lot more bad than good. I will admit that. But within that is some greatness. And I'm going to talk a little bit later on that. But on the feedback side of things, when you post on social media, right away people can like and people can comment. And that's a form of feedback. When you're getting tons of likes on your post, you know that you're posting something that people perceive well, that people like. And then when they comment on it, they're literally telling you what they think, what they agree with, what they disagree with, what you think what should have been said, what should have been posted. And it's just feedback right there once you post it. And it's all just about putting your work out there in social media and trying to figure out what your audience wants. And Paul argues that throughout history, the art that does this is what becomes the best art and what becomes the pop culture of art. Another point he makes that I would like to relate to is the patronage versus the market. Now, within social media, we can see this, but first let me explain it. Now, a patronage is when an artist gets paid by a specific person or organization to do their art, to do their work, and the person paying them or organization basically says, hey, I want you to convey this for me, or, I like what you're doing, and I'm just going to pay you to keep doing it. You don't have to worry about the market. Whereas an artist who works for the market is somebody who is trying to appease to an audience, trying to improve through the audience's feedback, and trying to make money from them. Now, we see this in social media. Businesses, companies are literally willing to give out salaries to people who are good with social media, who know what they're doing. That can really be seen as a patronage. Where on the other hand of things, people can go out on their own and make a living and make a lot of money through social media. And another point he makes with this is that when we're comparing patronage and the market is the one that usually wins out. Not to say that both can't work. Both can create great art. But the market wins out. And you see this in social media. When you think of social media, what is the pop culture of it? What stands out? To me, the stuff that I see people watch all the time, what they're always talking about, laughing about, is YouTube streamers, meme accounts, Viners. To me, that says that the people in the market know exactly what their audience is looking for, and that is why it's so addictive, is because the people at the top, they are always continuously getting the feedback from people, and they know exactly what it is the audience is looking for. And that could be a little scary to think about, but it really really screams what Paul was talking about in his lecture. It also can be compared to the argument he makes of television. And he says that ABC, NBC, and CBS, they were the first channels on TV, and if you were watching TV, those were your only options. So everyone was watching them, and they were all very similar. Now, I'm not saying Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter were similar, but I would say right now, in the core of the social media era, those are the three that everyone at least knows about, and if they're using it, I'm willing to bet they're using two of the three, if not all of them. So we can compare them in that sense. Now, what happened in the television was Fox came along, and they didn't say, hey, let's be better than these three. They said, let's be different than these three. And that's what changed television for people. That's what made it so diverse and what expanded it. And this is what's happening with social media. When a new social media comes out, you don't see them trying to be better than Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or any social media. They're saying, let's be different. And if you're not different, if you don't offer something different, then nobody cares because you can't catch up. You have to differentiate yourself to become better, in a sense. So it just gets you to think, what is to come with social media? This is really just the beginning of it. Is it going to grow the way television does? I think it already kind of has, but it just gets you to think how much more it can grow and how much more it can improve on. And then lastly, I wanted to challenge him a bit on his video games argument. So let me explain it first. Cantor shows how video games are like the next motion picture. Think of movies. Think of The Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. People watch these movies, these epics, to be told a story, to watch a story, and to try to immerse themselves in these epics of bravery. And this is what a video game is. If you've ever played a Skyrim game or the new game Red Dead, you can clearly see that they are telling a story, but the cool thing is you get to interact with that story. And that's how video games are very closely related to film. And if you consider film an art form, I think you pretty much have to consider video games an art form. And Paul makes that argument, and I agree with it. And I don't want to criticize him too much because video games came out in the 50s, whereas social media came out in the late 90s. So video games have a huge jump on social media. But I just think that social media is way bigger and will be considered the art form of our generation. I'm not saying that video games won't prosper as well, but the difference is everybody uses social media because it's so easy. It's right on your telephone. You pull it out and it's right there. Whereas with a video game, you have to kind of learn how to do that, and it's not for everybody. Not everybody likes that, but everybody uses social media. But still we criticize it, even though everyone we know is using it. We say the things that they said about Shakespeare, about television, about movies in the past. It's just a way to escape from reality. And I'm not saying it's not that, but I'm just saying if we're gonna say what is the next art form of our generation, I would argue social media over video games. And I think this was really cool to create and just to think about. And I want to know what you guys think. What do you think is the next art form? Am I wrong? Do you think video games would be the next art form of our generation? I personally think they both could be considered art forms. But which one will be the one of our era? Which one will be the one we look back and remember on? So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.